The topics today, folks, is who is the BBC and what is their function? We opening up right now, and folks, like I said, we are all confused. So when you're confused, you start asking questions. So who do we go to? We go to the BBC because that's the people that we pay our money to. So I had mentioned this in the past, but today, folks, I am going to get an education myself of finding out what does the BBC really do for us, okay? Because just up until a couple of weeks ago, I just realized that I'm paying my fees and my fines to this department that is protecting my customers. So again, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying anything wrong with that at all, folks. I'm just a little bit confused. So like I said, when I confuse, I call up the experts. So folks, the next topic we're gonna have is also it's all connected, folks. This topics today is it's gonna be a very good segment. The second topic is NGO. Who, what, why, when, who the hell are they? Okay. I like to, to have a discussion on, those type of organization, again, that are they helping us or they not helping us? That is another thing I want to get into, okay? And the last topics, folks, is nail association. Should we have one? Our first guest, of course, folks, he has been here on a segment before. My brother, Doug Schoon, the chemist. Everybody know him in the industry, of course. He is here to join us to this, have his thoughts in this discussion. Okay. Our second guest, folks, she's so special. She was just on last week, and we had to ask her back. All right, folks, we are delighted to have Miss Jaime Schrabeck. And folks, it's good to see you, Jaime. Welcome again, Doug. Welcome again to the show. Okay, are you guys feeling good today?
Feeling good.
All right, let's jump right into it. Let's jump into it.
BBC is the regulatory agency that has been given authority by the legislature of the state of California to regulate licensees. And we are licensees. As long as you are being compensated for performing the services of hair, skin, and nails and electrology, then you must follow the rules of the BBC. And in fact, the BBC just launched a new version of its website. I found it Monday morning. So if you go to barbercosmo.ca.gov, that's the official website for the Board of Barbering and Cosmetology. And just in a nutshell, their mission is right there on the front page. And I will read it to you. Our mission, to ensure the health and safety of California consumers by promoting ethical standards and by enforcing the laws of the barbering and beauty industry. So that is their mission. And there are lots of laws and staff behind that. All that staff, they all work for the government to do their job.
I think the BBC is actually one example of one of the most functional and well-working organizations in the United States that do these kind of things. So we're fortunate in that respect. We actually have some pretty competent people who really care about doing a good job. The problem is that the job that they're given is not necessarily a job that I think people imagine it is. The job they're given is really to protect the public from nail professionals, rather than to educate nail professionals to give the public better services. My belief would be we'd all be better off, including the state, if the state's mandate was to actually ensure better education and better services for the client, rather than protect the client from bad actors in our industry, which there are those that exist. But I just think it's a backward way of thinking. In Scandinavian countries, for instance, the government's very, very involved in educating the nail technicians. And when I go up there, I'm blown away at how knowledgeable the nail technicians are. I feel like I don't even really need to be there educating, that they know what they need to know already. So I believe it's where our BBC is lacking us, and not because they want to, but because they're directed to, is by not providing enough education for our industry.
There was a time when the USA was the priority in education with nails, okay? We were actually at a point, there was one time we were making fun of the European because they have no licensing. You remember that? They only had certificates. You remember that? Folks, I've been around, I know, okay, all right? We used to make fun of them. So now, somehow, by not having a licensing, and again, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have licensing, folks, okay? Don't even start on that. what I am saying is this: is somehow there is in Europe it seems like the nail professional committed. They committed to learning about their trade, and so they take all these classes that the manufacturer put up, and and so they get their certificates, and somehow now, after how many years now would you say? After 20 years, Doug is telling me that he goes over there and educate them, and he feels that he doesn't really need it because they are so knowledgeable. Doug, that is a big compliment to the Europeans. So,
well, I think also because the distributors in Europe get very involved in education, whereas distributors in the United States are more involved in education for teaching features and benefits, not best practices.
You brought it, Doug.
Our industry really needs to get together and start teaching best practices, and everyone agree on what they are. But right now, we can't even agree on what the cuticle is. So until our industry really gets our educational act together, and I think the state could certainly help with that, we've got a long road to hoe.
The state board does not have oversight over schools. State board does not control schools. So unfortunately, the quality of the education that happens in beauty schools, we can't really impact because they belong to a different agency in the state government. That's why. That is something we could change if we got together and advocated to the legislature that we believe, as I have for years, that these schools belong in the state board. They belong there. They do not belong with a different agency.
Does what they do. They're there to enforce the regulations. And that's their job, to enforce the regulations. And what Jaime has pointed out and what I've said is their job should be to educate nail technicians as much, if not more, than enforce the regulations.
Yeah, but
there'd be less enforcement necessary if they were given the responsibility for ensuring a proper education. That's the root of the problem in my view.
The inspectors have rules that they have to follow when they come into a salon, and they are supposed to identify themselves as soon as they walk in. They're not there to sneak in or mystery shop or anything like that. They have to identify themselves. And they don't cite and fine. They don't have anything to do with the fines. They write a citation, and then there's a part of the BBC at Sacramento that actually looks at the report and decides whether to fine or not, and how much to fine. No, that's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Is it?
Because, yes, it is. Because then they're able to gauge, is this the 5th time this salon has been fined for this thing, or is it the 1st time?
Got it.
So they have some flexibility in issuing the fines. And then even if you get a fine, there is a process that you can go through.
Yes.
And it's the disciplinary review process where you can appeal your fine before you pay.
Do we need the school, or should we go certification and let each individual professional commit to being serious about this career and wanting to go get education? Because under the current format right now, brother, I'm gonna get my hours, pass the test really easy, go out and do the monkey see, monkey do type of techniques, and then what we have people like us getting up and saying, what the hell is going on with the industry?
I think the problem is in the information itself. The internet's a double-edged sword. The internet's created an opportunity for more people to become educated than ever before, but it's also created an opportunity for the people who don't know what the heck they're talking about to get out and talk about that loudly and often. Right. So all they've really done is muddy the water with misinformation. And there's really more misinformation on the internet about nails than there is fact-based information. So until I think an authoritative body, such as the state board, not necessarily them only, actually steps in and says, hey, wait, we're going to straighten this all out. Here are the facts. Let's all agree on the facts. One association started to do that and got 3/4 of the way through. It was too expensive, and unfortunately the process died. But until someone actually comes up and says, here are all the facts, we're all going to learn these facts together, we all agree these are the facts, this is how we're all going to agree is safe to work, this is unsafe, and we come up with what are called best practices. Until our industry develops a set of best practices that we all agree upon and we all teach, we're going to be in the same rut.
Okay, so there are two kinds of education. The first is basic. The basic kind, I think that the state board taking care of that, verify, okay, you go and study on your system, on your school system. I'm going to check you. Come to the state board facility, I will test you and see how much you learn. And all I care, the state board care, is health. Okay, make sure that you don't create health problem to yourself and your client, mostly to your client, not necessarily for yourself. Okay, so that is their focus for the primary schoolings. The best is the relative term, best as we speak. Tomorrow we may know better, and the best of tomorrow is better than the best of today.
Well, they got it easy because there are more of them.
And do they have an association, Jaime? Yes or no?
They have more power. They are more relatable. When you talk to a legislator, it's very often someone who goes and gets their hair cut. That's something they can very much relate to. But are all those legislators getting their nails done? Probably not, because you're talking about male and female legislators, right? So it's not as relatable. You've got to stop thinking about the board as being there to help you. They're not there to help you.
I'm learning now.
They are there to enforce the regulations. They are there to inform us. They have to inform us of what the regulations are, and they certainly could do a better job of that. But the help comes from each other, and hopefully from associations that are there to represent your best interests. An association, regardless of what the name of it is, doesn't necessarily represent your best interests. So it's not that we need an association. We might need multiple associations. We might need an association for salon owners. We might need associations for individual license types. There are so many different ways that we can identify in this industry.
Well, there are no shortage of associations. There are many associations, but there's a huge shortage of associations that care anything about nails. Nail associations tend to be more hair associations or other, but there's even a massage association. But there's no strong nail association, and that is harming the industry probably more than anything other than the lack of education that I talked about earlier. A nail-focused association, they don't exist. And that's a huge problem. So when you don't have an association, what happens? What Jaime just said a second ago is really key to this whole discussion, that the legislators, they don't know. They don't get their nails done. They don't get pedicures, maybe a few of them, but they don't know. They don't understand you. And if they don't understand you, they're not going to be able to help you. And they do want to help you. They don't want to hurt you. They want to help you if they can, but they have to understand you. So if you don't have an association up there telling them you're in your best interest association, not just any association, another good point Jaime made, an association in your best interest, they're not going to hear what your best interests are. And that's not happening right now. There are people who claim to be representing the Vietnamese industry, but they do not. They're actually there, in my opinion, to harm the industry.
Around 20 years ago, that was the first time that manufacturers, the Vietnamese manufacturers, start getting together and say, "Hey, let's start an association, to help the community." Well, that didn't really work because of the politics. Folks, as you guys know, anytime when you start any kind of association or any kind of department, there's always politics that goes involved. So that right there didn't work out, all right? 10 years later, I was actually supporting the last one. And folks, if you guys remember, Anh Phước was involved, Thông was involved, Mike Vo, all of us, including the mayor, Chi Ta, who all of us on this group right here, okay, were supporting Vanna, which was 10 years ago we tried to start. And Doug, you probably remember that association.
I remember, that was a good effort.
It was such a good effort, folks. And I'm talking about people, we had an attorney, chemist, and and they had me, shit. So we were trying so hard, but folks, 10 years ago, the support was not there because the mentality of the nail professional, okay, the Vietnamese, okay, we don't need it.
The board does protect the licensed in the sense that it protects us as licensed professionals from unlicensed professionals. Because we don't want the unfair competition of people doing the work unlicensed. That's not fair to us because we're complying, and I know you're laughing, but it's one of those things. So it has to include everybody, regardless of their ethnicity. Everyone has to be part of an association in order to have a much more powerful voice.
When they said, "Hey, I can do my nails just as good as you do," well, that shouldn't be true. Your client should not be able to watch YouTube video and do nails as good as you do. And if they do, then you need education badly. So this is why education really is going to help everybody. If we can, education is like a rising tide that raises all ships. Everybody, the distributors, the manufacturers, the state board, the inspectors, everybody's going to be a lot happier if we can raise the education level in the nail industry. I think there really needs an association that can really help, can really educate. I've tried to work with that group. I'll work with anybody that wants to do something positive. I tried to work with that group for many years, and when we finally parted ways, it was over really the main difference is my goal was to educate people on how to work safely with these substances, and their goal is to ban things that they don't like. So when your goal is to ban things and not educate, you're hard to work with when your goal is to educate and not necessarily just ban everything. So their approach is very, very different. But I don't think the approach is something that's good for the industry. Because what our industry needs right now is more education. We need more people getting on that bandwagon and raising the bar in our industry and supporting nail technicians. I believe something you said earlier, Kelvin, absolutely. We're going to go into a new era where nail salons could be safer and better than ever before.
Man, I think we're too
safe. Everyone's going to be so anxious to do it right. So let's capitalize on this opportunity. Let's just skyrocket and take our industry to new heights. And that's not going to happen without education. Well, they're not an association. They're an organization. They're paid people. They're professional activists. And there's nothing wrong with being a professional activist. Many people make a living doing that and do great work. But when you're a professional activist who uses fear as a weapon to distort the facts, that's when I have a problem. And I think there are a lot of anti-cosmetic associations out there that all band together and work together to undermine cosmetics and make cosmetics look bad, make salons look bad, and they're a multifaceted organization spread across the country. One arm of that massive effort is called the Healthy Nail Salon Collaborative. They're in California, but they're really all across the country. And the problem, they've raised a lot of problems. I could write a book on that. But currently the problem that they're raising is that they're in Sacramento pretending to represent the Vietnamese community and, in fact, the entire nail industry, but mainly the Vietnamese community. They're pretending to be your representatives, and they're pretending to speak for you. And I think if you knew what they were saying, you wouldn't be happy.
If we came out strong for oversight of our schools, we get the schools assigned to the state board so that from the moment you become a student to the point that you graduate and you get your license and then you open up a business or go to work for somebody else, that you have all the information you need. That's what we need to do here in California. And I would say that in terms of whether it's an association or whatever it is, we need to build relationships. And that's why I'm so grateful that you invite me to come and be part of your group, because moving ahead, it's going to depend on the relationships that we have with each other, amongst ourselves, salon owners, professionals, and we have to take into consideration that we're not alone. We have other people that are licensed to do skin and hair, so what's good for us would be good for them too, including the continuing education. We need to build relationships with each other, and then we need to build relationships with the legislature.
Wow.
We have to be reliable, we have to be credible, we have to have the facts, and we cannot be, we'll be stronger that way. If we can stand strong, not because we're loud, not because we're many, but because we're right in the sense that we've done our homework.
On that note, folks, have a wonderful day. Be safe, and make sure your ass be kind, all right? On that note, folks, peace out. All right.